Hi Vishal, welcome to Kingmakers IAS Academy, Vishal. So we have Vishal, rank 341. So an anthropology optional student. So how you
Yes,
feel, Vishal?
I'm happy, ma'am. I'm grateful and relieved.
Yes, yes. This is the word that I'm getting from the previous topper also. So that's a great thing. But how much relieved are you with a lot of struggles that you've gone through? So tell me the journey behind.
Ma'am, this was my fifth attempt at UPSC. So the relief would be with respect to that itself,
Yes,
first of all.
nice.
Apart from that, ma'am, there is a lot of satisfaction with regards to the fact that whatever efforts that I had put in as well, has materialized into something productive and something desirable for me. So that was the primary source of satisfaction.
What is the service that you're hoping for, Vishal?
So, ma'am, I'm possibly hoping for Indian Audit Account Service, which is my upper preferences in terms of the service choices that I have filled. If not, I'll be getting into IRS income tax.
Great, Vishal. You are an engineer, then you did your MBA, and you was working with a very good salary.
Yes.
So why there's a inspiration for this civil service?
Ma'am, during my corporate stint itself, I was inspired to get into services because I was into human resources, and a lot of aspect of my job role was with regards to the betterment of employees in general and their dependence in extensive form as well. So to a great extent, that inspired me that if empathy can be institutionalized, then why limit it to an organization, rather expand it to a higher form. And that would be possible through civil services primarily, is what I understood at that point in time. Because of it, and that is the reason why I started very late into this journey as well, around 25, 26. That was my age when I started preparing. So that was the primary reason, ma'am. And after that, I joined the state services as well. I'm presently in the state services, and I'm serving there as well as an assistant commissioner of GST. I'm looking forward to joining this service as well.
That's great, Vishal. So it was a very focused task that you started. And talking about employees' welfare, and it was a very broad goal. That was a great realization indeed, Vishal. So, though it came late, it was the right point that a person like Vishal has to be there who had a very broad goal. But Vishal, tell me, this realization, how did you materialize into your preparation? You were you working still with your preparation?
Ma'am, when I started preparing, I was in the last phase of my corporate journey, at least as I reflect upon it. Then I resigned from the service with ICICI Bank. After that, I started preparing solely for services. I joined the state services in 2023 itself, and in this stint itself, I was working. So I would say that when I got qualified, I was working only.
So, but tell me how, you did your MBA religiously, and totally it was a different journal for you. So, why did you take anthropology especially?
There were multiple reasons. The first one being that it was generally at that point in time, it was a very high scoring subject, was the perception, and the number of candidates who used to take anthropology was very few at that point in time. So it was giving me the blend of both, as in a subject which was into my area of interest, because I was interested in biology a lot during my 12th as well, and it had very less internal competition, because that is also crucial in terms of what optional you choose. But then later on, while I'm getting selected, at this point in time, anthropology has one of the largest number of students under it. But I chose it at a point in time when it had very less people. So it was almost like a stock which was at its peak, and then it started coming down. But then it has started rising up again. Is what I see this year.
Oh, that was, yeah, underrated to overrated. That
Yes,
was,
ma'am.
yeah, anthropology is now a booming option
Yes,
now.
ma'am. Yes,
And
ma'am.
how about your this 5 attempts? How did you improve yourself? How was the self-evaluation and peer
Mm.
evaluation and so on?
Ma'am, the first attempt itself, I appeared in 2021, and I had resigned. I had left my job only around 5 months before that. So, and I was not well prepared. To be honest, I was filled with, to a certain extent, hubris as well, is what I would say, because of which I was not able to calibrate the demands of the exam, and that is why I could not even clear the prelims itself. From then onwards, I understood what prelims required, and I cleared prelims consecutively. But then mains was the biggest issue, as is the case as well with many. Um, First of all, finishing the paper itself, then necessary content being delivered, then the enrichment being there. Each of them took almost one attempt themselves. So that is why the delay was there. Apart from that, I joined this service, the state services, and that itself delayed the process a little bit because I had to undergo training, and my that training schedule was hectic in itself. So that made the process a elongated one. Had I been aware, and had I been actually um, uh, ready to understand the requirements of each stage of the exam at the beginning of the exam itself, I would not have experienced it myself, and would have been successful earlier, is what I believe.
But realization of your strength and weakness do come on your preparation rather than in the first half itself. But
Yes, yes, ma'am.
and you said this realization was very huge. But
Yes.
how did you manage preparing for state services and then within by joining it and then to UPSC? And how was that? Can you tell me briefly about your daily routine and how did you
Mm.
manage? Maybe you got 4 to 5 hours.
Hmm. Ma'am, in this attempt itself, because I was working and I was already posted, so I had time constraints, to be precise. But I managed that with regards to the time management itself. I shifted myself to my place of posting so that my transit reduced, and I started to cut off any form of wastage of time that I could that I would be getting engaged into. So that was one of the important aspects. The second one was I started using whatever time I had very judiciously, in terms of the fact that although I had 5 hours approximately after I came back home, but during the office hours itself, I would finish the newspaper, and office would anyways have the newspaper, so it helped me to a certain extent in that way. So I finished the newspaper itself in the office, and I'll include that in my preparation part because that is also taking a considerable amount of time. So on a working day, I would almost study for like 7.5 hours to 8 hours. So that is something I was doing, and including the newspaper reading time is what I would say. But on the days I was on leave, or on whenever I took the extended leave format, I started compensating for whatever loss I had, because I was at a I was experiencing FOMO, to be precise, because people would have prepared more, and because they had all the time, but I did not have all the time. But I believe, ma'am, because of the time constraint, I started using the time more judiciously rather than being very lackadaisical. That is first part. The second part being my office was very conducive for me, in terms of the fact that my commissioner, who is also an IAS, as well as my special commissioners and all, were very supportive of my preparation journey itself, and they supported me in that process. The third one was that I understood the requirements better at this point in time, and because of being in service, this bureaucratic understanding and the way administration things, administrative setup things at least had somehow ingressed into me, and that is what I helped. What I believe helped me in the journey.
That's great, Visha. So, anthropology is an optional. How do you think we have to be prepared for that? I mean, with the lot of competitions now that you understood while you threw your attempts,
Yes,
how did you manage improving your marks?
ma'am, anthropology was the true pain point for me because across all the mains attempts that I appeared, anthropology was the pain point because of which I could not clear. And I understood the fact that the subject was also evolving, unlike majority of the optionals, which was, for example, let's say political science and international relations or any other optional, which is very current affairs driven, they would anyways evolve. But many subjects are very static, and anthropology was expected to be static, but it did not stay static, primarily because of the candidates who were taking it up, specifically the medical students who were themselves adding few content every year, and that was itself increasing the syllabus organically, which meant that we have to be abreast with that as well. And that is something that I figured out gradually. Also, the fact that in the initial stages anthropology used to score very high, and specifically in 2021 itself there were around 7 toppers out of the top 10 with anthropology. And thereon I observed that UPSC had also started scaling down, which means that the subject has to be prepared and digested in such a format that even after it being scaled down, it has to be a good score, a decent score. So that required me to put extra amount of effort into the subject itself. The fundamental understanding of the theories was very important, which was something which we used to do as a part of the syllabus, but no, it is the foundation of the subject itself. So studying them initially and understanding them properly would be the key to anthropology, is what I understood later on. What used to happen is, because anthropology is very fragmented in itself, because there are four components to it which are very different from each other, people feel that they have to be studied separately, but the theories become the foundation for all four branches. And if you are able to utilize and understand those theories and reproduce them in any other question that is being asked which is not directly related with the theory, only then have you grasped anthropology, is what I understood. And this is what manifested into very good marks this year as well. I had an increment of around 70 marks this year from my last mains. So that is where I believe the difference was, ma'am.
In GS 1, 2, 3, 4, which you found it very hard, and how did you improve your marks in that? Is there any strategy, especially a surprising one, that worked for you?
Ma'am, with regards to GS 1, 2, 3, they are very different from GS 4 itself. And I was very comfortable with GS 4 in general as well as with essay. But GS 1, 2, 3 was very different. But I understood the fact that by the second attempt and third attempt itself, I was doing well in GS 1, 2, 3. The scores itself had become very balanced and above average. Not extremely brilliant, of course, but above average scores were already there. And what I understood, that every paper had few areas which were weak points for almost all of the mains writing students. For example, the ancient and medieval the art and culture part of history becomes an area where people can find it difficult. For example, this year itself they asked questions on Chandela dynasty's architecture. People just know about Khajuraho, and they can't write 2 pages about Khajuraho per se. I believe it was a 15 mark or a 10 mark, I don't remember exactly. But writing about those questions is very difficult. It means that history also has to be, specifically art and culture part, has to be understood very scientifically and technically. The patterns, the themes, the narrations, the styles, the instruments used, those have to be written, and instead of just the features of that temple or that dynasty, only then will you be able to write a very good art and culture right answer, a culture like answer. Similarly, with regards to internal security in paper 3, I understood that proper programs of the government have to be very well there in your head, and they have to be reproduced instantly anytime they are being asked, because they are very fixed and very limited in number, and everyone is aware of them. If you're not writing, then you are losing out on mark, that is it. uh, Writing extra here is not going to happen. Anything that you're not writing is the loss. Similarly, in case of GS2, the case laws were there. That was always being asked anyways. But what had started happening, that any form of other flowcharts, diagrams, or maps which are not expected out of you in polity or governance can also add marks to it. So those are the areas where I focused on, as in how I could value add to these subjects, understand where exactly the lacunas exist, because we start reading polity from the beginning, but the governance answers have to be very practical oriented instead of very theoretical. And those things I learned gradually, and that is where the marks reflected, I believe.
You said your essay and GS was a little comfortable. You were feeling very comfortable. How that comfort feeling came for you? So,
Ma'am, in general, I did creative writing as well to a certain extent, so that was a area of interest for me as well to a great extent. But the primary focus, primary reason of this comfort was the focus on understanding that answer writing in GS 1, 2, 3 is very different from answer writing in these two papers. Rather, the essay is very proximal to GS 4 than the GS 4 being proximal to the other GS papers. So examples and elaborations and narrations have to be appropriate so that they touch the necessary chord of emotions and necessary chord of sentiments that are expected out of you. So that is something that I understood, that you will have to write something which will invoke some form of emotion or some form of attention for the evaluator. And that is some I understood that as well by reading the copies, the test papers of toppers as well. For example, last year's toppers ethics paper is very different. It was very different from the way people had approached. She just wrote one or two examples across every answer, and every one of them were very elaborate. Instead of writing multiple answers, which are multiple examples which are very redundant. For example, Ashok Khemka sir's example, or B.R. Ambedkar sir's example. So those are very redundant examples. But if you elaborate on any one of them, you are actually expressing what you are trying to highlight, and what how it fits into the answers questions requirement. So those approaches were very helpful. Similarly, those reflections were useful in essay writing as well, because essay is in a way an elongated form of evaluative process of reflecting on sentiments, emotions, and ethicalities as well, to a certain extent. So these dimensions were something that I had hold on from the beginning itself, because I understood that these papers were not evaluating your content specifically, but your ability to understand human realities and human necessities.
yes. So, knowing that demand differs between the different papers
Yes.
had made you to knack it, okay? So,
Yes.
that was a realization. But how was the personality test and how was the association with Kingmakers IAS Academy?
Ma'am, the personality test went well. I had taken multiple mocks, and Kingmakers had also guided me during the initial phase itself, because I was working. So it was very necessary for me to take up mocks without leaving the service immediately. At least take the leave, because I had already exhausted my leave for mains and everything. So I wanted to take online mocks as well, and Kingmakers was very helpful in that stage. The evaluation was also very elaborate, and to a great extent, there was a panelist from my state who helped me prepare on the dimensions of my state as well. So that was very helpful. And that those initial parts of the mocks helped me gauge myself before I took up the physical mocks at Delhi. So it was very important in that sense.
Thank you, Visham. Uh, in your very brief time, you were able to come and give your beautiful words and suggestions to the candidates who will be appearing and who are appearing. Thank you so much. It will be a great inspiration for all of us and for the future aspirants. Thank you so much.